Okay guys, let's get going with this tonight. Earlier on we were working on spawning a miner, and I have tracked down where the actual miner is spawned. Now this is coming out another AI task, okay, but it's given me the what I need to add to the miner, and basically what I need to destroy after the miner is done. Okay, so from that point of view, what we're doing here is we are getting the mineral, then we are getting the mineral amount and type, and we're spawning the miner from here, and then we're basically killing the vehicle, which we don't need to do, and we're killing the mineral, right, which I'm not 100% sure if we're going to do or not this time, right, because we might need a return reference. If the person deletes the miner, we may need to respawn the miner. Okay, now we may be able to do something with that, but we're going to keep it simple to start with. Okay, so with that in mind, we are going to go back to our placeable blueprint, and where is it? These are the tasks. So it's not there, and it's not there. Now, I was sure I had it in the list here, but maybe I don't. Yeah, there it's there. Temp building. Okay, so in temp building, this is where we need something to happen. Okay. When you basically click on it, it does something. Now, I have started adding some stuff here, right? Now, this is actually going to have to change, okay? And the way it's going to have to change is that this is going to have to spawn in a very specific way. Because the miner is slightly different and you don't basically select what you're going to do, right? We're going to actually do something slightly different, right? So what we'll do is we'll delete that, right? And then what we'll do is this will come along here, and this will spawn as normal, okay? And what we'll do is we'll check if it's a miner here. Now we could do a switch, but we're only doing the miner just now, so we'll just leave that like that. And we're saying basically if it's not a miner, then do this. If it is a miner, we come down to false, right? And basically what we do is we do that, and then we spawn actor of class, and we spawn a miner specifically, okay? And basically what we do is we pull this back in front, right? Might have to pull this over a bit yet, but we're getting the type, and we plug that in there, and we're getting the amount, and we plug that in there. Okay, and our location is going to be here. And then this basically goes to here. Okay. Now, if you're there, Jameson, let me know, because I want to show you something that we were talking about the other night, which I couldn't remember what the node was, but I know where it is in this project, so I can quickly go to it. Right, in fact, I'll bring it up just now. Right, we need a target. Okay, so that's not going to go in there. Right, so I'm guessing this goes here, except it doesn't. Right, we can delete that. And that's going to go in there. Okay, it's not. Right, basically we don't do that. Right? What we do is we plug these, the amount goes in there, and the type goes in there. Okay. And that should do us. And we can plug that into there. Right, I'm going to show you something, Jameson, right? I can quickly show you it. Right, if I go down to weapons, I can go to the launcher, and where is, right, I'm guessing this is it here. Right. And this is where you face, right? And there it's there. Right? Find, look at, rotation. Okay? So when you're spawning your debris, if you want it to fire straight at the player, right, you would do this. You would do the debris, actor location, and then the player, actor location. And then you would find the rotation, right? And you would set your relative rotation to that. And then that is going to basically turn your debris to face the player. At which point you can add an impulse, which would throw it at the player. Okay? So basically you're doing a find, look at, rotation. Right? And you break the rotator out. Okay? This find, look at, rotation was the one I just couldn't remember what it was actually called. I knew it was look at or something, but I wasn't 100% sure, but it's find, look at, rotation. Okay? So, I mean, what you could do here is, if you were doing your, if you didn't want it to necessarily fire directly at the player, but close to the player, all you would need to do was change your Z value, right? And like randomize it +5, -5 degrees, right? And then that would be enough to basically throw it off just slightly off the player, right? But there you go, that's how you can do it. Then, as I said, add the impulse. Now, I'm not 100% sure what add impulse is going to take in, but if we do add impulse, right, and say we were to do it to the static mesh, right, you would just do X if you've rotated it, okay? So I think that would work. Might need a couple of little bit of tweaks, but I think that's your way forward. But that obviously this is your important part where you're getting the rotation and making it look at the player. Now, what you might want to do actually in the meantime as well is you might want to change the relative rotation of the debris. Otherwise, the debris is going to come at the player in exactly the same fashion, right? So if you like rotate the relative, if you do the relative rotation of the debris, and then do the find look at rotation, and then rotate it on that, then that's going to give you a random rotation of the debris, right? Whereas if you don't do that, let's say it was a door, the door would always hit you from as if it was like a front door. Whereas if you randomize the relative rotation of the mesh and then get the look at rotation and set the overall rotation to that, then you're going to get the door coming at you in all directions, right? Which is obviously going to be a bit more like real time, real life, how it would actually happen, right? Especially with a tornado. And then, as I said, you can then add an impulse to that. And if you've got rotation, then you're just going straight forward, so it's just going to be on the X. So hopefully that helps a bit. Right. So this was our harvester create mine, and we're not using it anymore. And this was also a similar thing, and these are all related to the vehicle. So we're going to leave this in place, right? But we're not spawning it anymore, so it's never going to get used. So if we package this up, it wouldn't actually get saved or converted. So we're okay with that. But we have done our placement, which is temp building, and now if we do this, we should get the correct result. Now, I've not tidied it up yet, right? So we can tidy up this text or make this a different kind of graphic. Right? So you can see this is much better the way this is flowing, because you've got to do a probe, then the probe flies out, it scans, then it finds it, and there you go, right? Then the problem we had was basically this wasn't getting set up right, but we're going to see if it gets set up right. And one of the things is we just actually did the correct thing. Right? And you see this isn't getting set up. Right? So this was the problem we were having. So this is basically not getting set up properly. Although, having said that, we just closed that thing down. And this is the thing that was creating the mine, right? So we had spawn, mineral amount, mineral ore, and that's all we were putting. So there must be something that was getting basically called after we actually spawned the miner. So that's the mineral. So we need to check the miner itself. As I said, this is the funny random case. Let's destroy all. So the first thing we want to look at is our begin play. Right, and here is the begin play. So we're doing all that. That's all going to be fine. Right, now the interesting thing here is if there is some sort of setup. Right, now there doesn't seem to be. Right, so I'm assuming that there's something going on here. Right, okay. Right, we'll try this anyway, right? So we're just having to do a bit of refreshing of our code here to find out why our stuff ain't working. I'm sure there's some weird little quirk that I'm not quite setting. Right, and now so we've got a recipe output, and now we're going to set, well, we're clearing both our recipe output and our comp output, right? So we step over, and then we need this, and that's none. And it's because our ore type is none. Right? Now that should be something. Right? So we're going to stop this. Give me a second. No, we're not going to stop it. We're just going to do it again. But what we need is in our temp building, basically what's happening is this doesn't appear to have a type or an amount. Right? So this is a little thing we did while I was off stream. So we can have a little look at that. And that code didn't run. Oh yeah, because I've got to build a miner. Duh. Right, so if we build the miner, okay. Wait a minute. So basically this is failing. Okay. Okay, so what I'm doing is, when you've got the temp building, right, when it's doing the event tick, it's basically updating well, that's material, so we're not going to worry about that. Right, so where is the event tick on this? Apparently not here. Right. And that isn't actually it. So it's more like here. Right? So basically what we're doing here is we set up a variable, right, called targeted object, right, and we set it to be an object, right, because we don't know what it's going to be yet, okay? So if it's true, we set it to the BP mineral, and if it's false, we set it to nothing. Okay? So well, you can't put a breakpoint there really, but what we can do is, might have to stop this here. Yeah, we need to take a look at this, right? So we're going to do that, right? Then we're going to press play, continue, I knew this was going to take a bit of work, guys, so don't worry. This isn't particularly infuriating or annoying, because I knew this was going to take a little bit of. So we're going to say temp, right? We'll get there, don't worry. As I said, we'll gradually tidy this up. Right, so if we click on this, then the thing to watch out for is this targeted object, okay? And we want to, when we hover over the mineral, we should see the mineral pop up here, okay? And there you go, see? And then it's off again, and then it's on again. Okay, which kind of gives me an idea here actually. I think, no, that can't be right. If we go back to the event graph, yeah, it is mineral. Right, okay. So, let's try that again. Do that. And we'll take a look here and see how this goes. Never thought this was going to be easy to change this all around, but it was needing done because the gameplay flow wasn't right. It kind of didn't make sense the way it was working, whereas this makes a heck of a lot more sense. Right, so we can click on this now. The interesting thing is that didn't break here. Which means that this building type isn't a miner. So I'm going to resume that. I think that's the problem. Whatever it is, we don't actually have the building type at the moment for this. Right? But again, we can check this out. Right, so if we do the probes again, now, interesting thing here is if I press that right now and then click on temp building, it is the type miner. You see the building type there? Miner. Right? So let's see where this is going, because this must say minor. That's correct. So that should be true. So that should be look at that, I've not plugged it in. Right, and this is where breakpoints help you out a lot. Jammy, if you're watching, this is where breakpoints help you and knowing where to put them. And I'm going to say that this is a winner. Right. And all we need to do now is make sure that we remove everything that was normally removed in the first place. So basically we can remove everything. Right, so now we can do that. And we get our spawn. We've got our amount. We've got our type. Right, that's okay. So we can disable that for now. Resume that. And step over, and this should say copper ore, which it does. And therefore our comp output should, yep, we're adding the copper ore thing to that. And that should be us. And now when we hover over this, we've got our stuff back. Yay! And there we go. And there's a couple of things we're going to have to do here, right? Let me just explain this. Right, at the moment, what happens is, well, it's not quite happening yet, but I don't actually know if we're going to do it or not, right? So, let me just explain this as we do it. Right, so we set down our probe, okay? Now, at this point, a mineral does not exist, okay? So we have no minerals, but after this has scanned, we do have mineral, because it's going to spawn a BP mineral, okay? Now, the next point is, when we put down our miner, right, we transfer the data from the mineral, which is the ore type and the quantity, to the miner. That was the way it worked, okay? Now, I'm now realizing that that's not going to work, okay? And let me explain why. Because, right, say I've got 6 drones. Okay, well the point is that this is one square, this is another square, this is a square, this is a square, right? And basically, you're going to be able to do like a patch, right? And then the miner will mine all of the patches round about it, right? So I'm going to have to keep the patches available. Now, I don't know why it's not letting me do that, except I actually do. Right? Don't worry, I know why that was kind of a bit weird. Right? But what I want to do is I want to check the size of a miner next to the size of one of these. Right, now I know this is 500 by 500, okay? But I want to see it in correlation. And this is like another issue that we might have to deal with, which is 2 different types of ore, okay? Now, I already know how I'm going to deal with it, But in theory, the player will be able to do this, right? So we'll just sort this out. Alright, so we've got 2 iron and a copper there. And we want one more right here. Right, and then we'll build our miner and see how it looks in comparison to so what I'm saying is, let's say this was 4, you had 4 drones, then it would create this pattern, right? And then let's say we do our miner, right? And then we check the size of our miner. And our miner is going to cover like quite a lot. We can see there, if we resume, right? Now, it actually looks like our miner hasn't been dropped on the same place, or does it? Now, it could be, it just could be the rotation that looks a bit makes it look a bit weird. Actually, you know what? It doesn't. It doesn't look as if it's dropping it on a center point. Because if it did, I think this is 3 by 3. Right, I think this is 1500. Now, this has got a plane, and I'm pretty sure the plane's going to be 3 by 3. Which means, of course, that if we look at the base building, right, and there's a plane, well, actually it's 16 by 16. Well, wait a minute. Right, that means, yeah, this should be 15 by 15, right? But what it means is this is 1500 across. So fundamentally, when we draw this over the top of, well, the easiest way to explain it is, and the easiest way to test it is to actually do a test on it, right? And the way it's going to look is kind of like this. Right, we're going to do a 3 by 3, and then we're going to drop the miner on top of the middle, and it should look like it's covering all of them. Right, it should look as if it's in the middle. Okay. And if it's not, we're going to have to take a look and see what the issue is. Still need a building for this. And then this begins to start looking really nice. Well, I think it looks nice. I'm going for looks nice. Now, one of the other points being that this is always finding a mineral at the moment, but that's not always going to be the case, okay? Right, so let's say we do our miner, right? And then we do our 3 by 3, and then we're going to drop the miner on top of the middle. And it should look as if it's in the middle. Right, it should look as if it's in the middle. And if it's not, we're going to have to take a look and see what the issue is. Now, one of the other points being that this is always finding a mineral at the moment, but that's not always going to be the case, okay? So don't think that the player can just do this and get minerals all the time. This might take a minute. I would say the scanning's looking better as well within context of the game now that it's kind of not got the stupid big minerals and then the miner getting built too quickly and all that stuff. I think it's beginning to come together a bit here. So sorry about this, but yeah, I would say even the scanning's beginning to look better within the context of the game as well, even without me changing it or anything. Right. We'll get rid of these flags and that in a minute as well to tidy that part up. But what we want is a 3x3, right? And then we want to place our mine right in the middle. And then we want to check that our miner is actually getting placed in the middle, right? Yeah, this is beginning to look the part, actually. I'm quite liking the look of this. Right, those flags are also causing a problem. It's actually the BP grids and that are underlying this that are causing the issue. I mean, when you think about it, the other way we could do this, right, is we could manually, what do you call it? We could manually or procedurally drop minerals around the map. Right, rather than having to scan them one at a time, what we could actually do is send our probe directly to a spot. Right, and then you could do, I'm just thinking this through here, is you could have like a neutral rock where you can't tell where it is until you actually probe it, yeah? I suppose we could actually try that. just for a little bit of Sunday night fun. We could do a little prototype of a procedurally generated map where the resources are all already in place. What do you think, guys? Do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea or a good alternative? You could always leave it up to the player if they want it that way, or if they want to actually individually scan for stuff. Now, the thing would be that I would have to put some sort of system in place that if the whole place is blank, then they have to have some kind of indication of where to actually mine, right? Or where to scan for, right? Because you don't want them just randomly. Right. So there we've got our 9 pieces, right? So we'll save that. Now I don't know if it's going to save minerals or not, which is a bit of a bummer, but anyway. Right, so if we build our miner in the middle, which is right there, yeah, I did build it in the middle. Or did it? I'm going to go for yeah, it did. It certainly looked like it did. But then having said that, we should have had stuff going up to the edge, and this should be coming to the edge as well, right? So it looks like to me that this platform or base is not in the middle. Right? Yeah, it's not, because look, it's all at the bottom now, and now it's all in the... See, there it's in the correct position, right? And there, it's not quite. There's only one position that it's actually properly, and that's not even there. So it's not... It's actually our miner and our platform that is off. It's off center. Right? Don't ask me why. Right, so I'm going to stop that, right? I'm going to press play again. And yeah, we're not saving the minerals. Right, I'm going to take a break for 2 minutes. Going to grab a cigarette. I shall be back. If you're enjoying the stream, hit the like, subscribe and all that stuff, and check out the description for Discord and that, and I shall be back in 2. And I think we'll have a look at some procedural generation of our minerals. Back in a minute. Okay, we're back. Now, let's have a little bit of fun with this, shall we? What we're going to do is we're going to go back to our blueprints, right? And then we're going to go to components. So we're not going to do it in there, right? What we're going to do is we're going to go to our minerals, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to create a blueprint class, and we're going to make it an actor component, right? And we'll call it comp mineral spawner. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make it, well, we're going to make it cool, right? But we're not going to do anything on event play, begin play, or event tick, right? What we're going to do is we're going to get our controller to decide whether it's going to spawn everything or not, right? So we're basically going to do a custom event, right? And then we're going to call it spawn. Let's zoom in a bit so you guys can see that a bit better. Spawn the, okay, will not be that. We'll just say spawn minerals, okay? So I'll show you how, I'll tell you what, I'll take my time with this, right? And I'll show you how I would normally do this bit by bit, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close everything down, right? I'm going to open that back up, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our FE controller. I'm going to open that up, and then it's going to be basically this that calls it when we start up, right? So here at the end of this, probably not at the end actually, but we'll do it at the end for now, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to add a component, and it's going to be comp mineral spawner, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go here, drag that in, and we're going to say spawn minerals, okay? Now the reason this is a component is the fact that it doesn't need a transform or anything, right? That's not to say you can't actually link transforms to it, but it doesn't have a transform of its own, because it doesn't really need one. It doesn't matter, right? So it can do everything that a normal actor can do, except it doesn't have a transform, right? So you'll notice here I've got a game start counter, which is a component, and that keeps track of all the stuff. Basically that keeps track of the stuff for the graphs. If we use this, because it's not got a tick, and it's because it's not got a begin play, it's not going to cost us anything, right? It's not going to cost us resource, right? So what we're going to do is in the spawner, I believe we can get all actors, right? And then we can, I think we can get a landscape. Right? So this is the way I would do it, right? Now, I'm not 100% sure how to do this, but we'll work it out as we always do. Right? And we'll get copy, because we're only going to have one terrain, I believe. We can do this with more, but we'll do it for one just now, right? And then what we'll do is we're going to have to get the size, and we're going to have to get its location, right? So location, get actor location, and then we're going to have to get its size. So if we get the actor scale 3D, and then what we'll do is, all we want is the X and the Y, we're not bothered about the Z, okay? But what we want to do is basically say, so we want to do a print string, but this is barely so we can break in, okay? So we can just put that in there, and then we can drag out here, right? And I'm pretty sure each unit is 100, right? So let's see what it brings us back. So that didn't work. Right? Why did that not work? Okay. Step into. I'm guessing we don't have a landscape. Right, it's not going to be set yet. Okay, it is. Well, that's weird. Right, that's 100 by 100. Okay. So the thing is here, we want to also know what this is, the location. So if the location is at the center, right? What we can do is we can add a variable and we can say X. We can say min max X, right? And that is going to be a point. Okay. And then we can duplicate that and say min max Y. Okay. And I want to restart this because I want to see this. Ah, right, okay. Breakpoint there. Right, spawn minerals, resume, right. Okay. So it's 25, 200, 25, 200, right? So what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to go into the map, right? And I'm going to basically straighten that out. We're not going to have any silly numbers. We're just going to make it 2500 and not 25, 200, 25, 200. Not that it'll matter. The calculation will still be the same. but it just keeps things kind of simple, right? So if we go maps, right, and then we click on that, and you'll notice this is 25,200, right? So we'll just change that to be 2500, and then we'll change that to be 2500. Okay, now that's not going to have made any difference whatsoever to anything really, right, in the grand scheme of things. Right, so we know this is 2500 by 2500, right? Or sorry, the X position start is 2500 and the Y position start is 2500. Okay, so basically we half these and we multiply each one by 100 and then take it away. Or do we? Okay, we need to look at one more thing to find out actually how this is set up. Right. Right, so we need to zoom out here. Right, and we need to find out where, you see how it's in the bottom corner? Right, so X is going up the way and Y, so basically we're adding each time, right? So we're adding each time, okay? Right, okay, so basically what that means is if we go back to here, yeah, hopefully I'll be able to use it a bit more if I end up changing the third person controller at some point. But anyway, right, I need to get my brain on here, switch my brain on. Right, so the actor location, right, is basically the bottom left hand corner. So fundamentally we're going to set this and then we're going to set the Y. Okay, and we're going to delete that for now. Now what we want is if we change the size of this is going to automatically update, right? So this is the point here of doing all these calculations, because we want it to be that this is like set at once and it will be done. So we make an endpoint there and we make an endpoint here, right? And then the location is the minimum, right? And the maximum for this is this number here plus the scale multiplied so this is float times float, right? It's float times 100 plus this number here, right? So that's going to be plus Okay, and we'll do that, and that will go in there, and then that actually, you know what, right, we'll just do it this way anyway for now. Right, so that'll go in there, right, and then basically what we do is we drag all of this out a bit, and then we copy this and that is going to go in there, and that is going to go in there. Okay, so basically that is going to give us the top right hand point of on our map and the bottom left hand point. So the minimum is bottom left, the maximum is top right. Okay, and then what we're going to do, right, this is going to get a bit messy, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to duplicate this, then we're going to do that, right, and then we're going to do for each, no, we're going to do a for loop, right, then we're going to duplicate that, that is going to go in there, that is going to go in there, and that is going to go in there, and in fact I shouldn't have done that at all, right, because this should be -1, right, then duplicate that, and then this will be -1. I'm not 100% sure if that's actually not right. Well, I mean, what we could do is say this, we could say 1 to that -1, right? So that's fine. Okay. And then what we do, I mean, if that's the case, we actually don't need the min-max here. We do need the minimum, but we don't need the maximum. But it's fine. It's fine. So the next thing we do is, for a laugh, right, let me think. Right, we're just going to say spawn actor from class. Right, and it's going to be mineral. Okay, now What we're going to do here is we're going to add another version of things in here so that it actually gets a random one itself. So we're not going to tell it what type of mineral it is. We're going to basically tell it to find out for itself what type of mineral it is. Okay? But we can do that in a minute. Well, let's do it now, right? So what we can do is open our mineral, and then we can add a variable, and we can say random generation, right? And then we make it instance editable, and we make it expose on spawn. Then we save it, and then we can do something here when we begin play to set itself up, right? So we can do that in a minute, right? But the main thing is here that we've got that part set up, right? So if we refresh this, we've now got random generation, and under these circumstances we say true, right? Normally for setting it up in the world by the probe, we don't do it by random generation, right? So what we need to do now is get spawn transform, and this is where we do our calculations. So what we'll do is we shall split the pin here, and then we'll split this, right? And this is the X, this is the Y. So what we're going to do is get the index, multiply it by 100, right? And then we're going to get min X, min max X, right? Then we're going to break it, and then we're going to add it to that, right? Now this isn't quite right, or is it? Now I've got some special things here, right? Let's have a look to see if we've got special stuff. Advanced for loop. We've got a step size. Right, that's what we want. I might not need that actually. Let's not worry about that for now. Let's do this, right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add 250, right? So we're going to add a pin here, and we're going to add 250. And that's because we want it to spawn in the center of a location, right? So we're going to do that. And then we're basically going to do the same for the Y, right? So that is going to go in here, and then we're basically going to do this again, except we're going to be doing that and we're going to be doing that, and then that is going to go in Y. Right? And I'll tell you what we'll do, right? What we'll do is, for the moment, we'll just set this to bauxite. Okay? And if I've done this, my calculation properly, this should work. Well, we want right, what we'll do is we'll add a branch, because we don't, just for the first part of our random generation, right? Right, we're going to say get integer, okay, get integer in range random integer in range, right, and then we'll say 0 to 9, right, and we'll say if it's less than if it's less than 3, then we're going to spawn something. Okay, so let's try it and see what happens, shall we? Yay! Absolutely nothing happened. Woo! Right, we're going to stop that for now. And we're going to disable that. And we're going to go back here. Right, so that's a load of rubbish. So that might have been the problem right there. So let's see if it actually tries to spawn anything. Yep, it's definitely going to spawn something. Disable that breakpoint, resume. Now this is where you put loading, generating world. Wow. It is doing something. It was working. Right, I'll tell you what. We maybe got it to do a bit too much there at once. We might want to do it in chunks or something like that, but in the first instance what we'll do is we'll go back to here. Right. And in the first instance, we'll change this and we'll just say 10, right? And then we'll do, I put that there so we know that that's the thing we plug in, and we'll do 10. Okay. Now, if we travel to the bottom corner, whichever corner it is, we should see, yeah, there we go. But as I was telling you, I think we need to use that step. That's 100. It's by 5. Right. So let's do that. Then first index is 1. Then we do that, and then we step yeah, I don't think it is that's the problem. For each one, right? I think this should be 500. Okay. So I think we'll leave it at that. But you see it did work. Right? There we go. Right. So if we do that, right, there we go. It didn't take that long. And now we should have it all the way along, or all the way down the side, so we've got all the way along. Right? There you go. Random. Pretty cool, huh? So if we stop that, and then we plug this in, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Infinite loop detected. Right, this is because not ideal. I think this is because it's looping too fast, right? I think if we set them up here, right, and then didn't do this, it would work fine, right? But it's because it's continually trying to read really, really quickly from the data table to set itself up, right? I think that's the issue here. So let me try something, right? Just to clear this problem up. Right, I'm going to dismiss this for now. Right, I'm just going to try this out. Okay, I'm going to add and add. Right? And I need to set these two things up. But what we're going to do is we're going to do bauxite. Then we need the mesh. Now, I don't know what we're using for this. Alright. The second one is going to be copper ore. Now what I could do here is, give me 1 second, if I go to I believe it's going to be recipes, right? And then if we look, it's DT items, excuse me, it's DT items, right? And then what we can do is pull this off of here, then delete that, then, I mean, we don't need to fill in all of these, right? But we can do the necessary ones. And it's ore. Okay. And I think the rest we can leave, right? We don't need it for doing this, right? So all we need is this and the mesh. Copper ore, and I'm pretty sure this is just ore as well. Well, actually, iron ore, copper ore. Is that the right thing? Well, that's not right. There's iron ore from bauxite, copper wire. Right, so we're not doing iron ore, right? We're getting it for bauxite and we're getting it for copper ore. Right, so that's right. And this is the output. So it doesn't actually matter. As long as we say, I'm pretty sure we're okay as long as we say that it's as long as we say this is copper ore, then it doesn't matter about this, right? Because the mineral will check that it's copper ore and then set it up itself, right? So in theory, we should be able to do that. Okay. And they might have crashed again. Nope, there we go. It did it. Oh my lord, it's slow. Right, but the thing is, I don't think it's slow. I don't actually think it's slow because of the amount of meshes. I think it's slow because of the number of blueprints. Right? But we can check that. Now, the blueprint itself, is there anything right, we can delete this and basically that can get deleted as well, and that can go as well, and I'm pretty much sure this plane can go as well. Right, and now we've got an error, but that's okay. Right, because we don't actually need this anymore anyway. Right, and there's another part we don't need this either. Right, because this was related to the original thing. Now, in theory, from the documentation, these instances of the mesh should be really, really, really fast. Right? And we can basically delete that. Right, and that's us. Yeah, so I'm using instances of meshes, right? So you'll see here it says instance static mesh, right? So basically I set up the type base color, I'm not even sure what that is, material instance, and the material instance isn't even a thing, so I can probably get rid of that as well. And this is load rocks from data table, right? So in here I kinda need to do this. There is a way around about it, but I kinda need to do that. But that's not going to slow things down. That's because that's on load only, right? So right. Now the interesting thing would be, what is it? No, it's not that. Right, let's stop that for now. Yeah, this is these two things here, right? So I think they can go as well. Right, and these will basically be going in here, right? And then what I'll do is I'll go to here and I'll change that and I'll say less than 2, right? And then I'll see at which point we start getting some right? It's still a bit slow. Right, but I mean the thing is here we've got an absolute crap ton of stuff here, right? Right, if you look in the map here, look at it. Right? Now, the next thing would be to test it out if it's less than 1. So this is 10%, right? This is 10% of the land being filled with resources. Right, now that's us kind of fine again. Right? Now, there's not even a reason for doing this, right? Now, the point being here that this blueprint mineral, I think I know why it's even got a problem with this, right? And I think it's got something to do with the collision, right? So what I'm going to do is, for the moment, I'm going to block all, right? Oh, sorry, I'm going to no collision, right? And then I'm going to try that. This is just me playing about at the moment, right? This isn't the way I would, right? So there we go. We've got pretty much, we're back to our usual speed, right? But the only thing is that this is not going to, oh, it still does. Right, there we go. But these aren't, you'll notice that these aren't quite in center. Right? So it looks to me as if these are 250 by 250 out, right? So it looks to me like what we need to do with this is not add this 250. Right? So that was less than 10 seconds. That was about 8 seconds. Right? And resume. And what we'll do is disable that. Right? So that's, see, I don't think that's still quite right. But we'll worry about that in a minute. But you can see here that we've still got a decent amount of. Now, there's no reason why I don't set things up where the map, I can set areas of the map up with resources, right? So, and then of course what you'll be doing is you'll be removing you should basically be removing these as you mine them as well. So you'll be basically removing these things, right? But that would be, right, so if we calculate it, right, we're going to have 100 times 100, so that's 10,000, right? But we're only doing 10%, right? So we're doing 1,000, okay? But we're also doing up 45. Oops. So we'll do that again, right? So it was, so it was 100. Right, I'm making a mess of this now. So it was 100 times 100, right? Times 0.1 for 10%. But for each of them, we do 45 bricks or rocks, right? So we're basically doing 45,000 rocks. Okay? We're doing 45,000 instance meshes. Now, that wasn't giving us a problem, so that's okay. But I've heard that with instance meshes, you can actually use gazillions of them, you know, like millions, and it doesn't affect performance. But I think this is because it's within like a blueprint. It might be doing something, right? Or we've not got the LOD set up or something like that, right? So I'm thinking it might be something to do with that. So let's have a look, right? We'll close that one for now. And if we go into here, right, and we're saying mineral rocks, let's say copper, A. So the point is, right, so you can set these up, you know. Right, now there is a way to do this, which I'm probably about to break, because you can say 4 and it automatically does it. Okay, now if we were to do that for every single one, I'm guessing that's going to speed up everything, right? So what we'd basically need to do is set these all up with 4 LODs, right? Automatically getting done, right? So if we say 4 and then apply, then save it, and then make sure we save that. Now the interesting thing is going to be if we do it with this one, right? Now we say 4, apply changes, save it. Now we can see here now what triangles and the LOD is, right? So at LOD 1 we are at 2,000 triangles, right? Then when we get to there, LOD 2 we're down to 900. Then LOD 3 we're down at 480. So we're at a fifth of the size, right? So let's do them all, right? Let's do them all. We'll save that. Now, in theory, most of them are going to be at LOD 4, right? Or sorry, LOD 3. So in effect, this should really, really improve our performance. Okay. Yeah, look at that. Right, we're back to as smooth as silk, right? Right, so now we've got the instances and we're using the LODs, then we're flying, right? And then probably we can put this back up, right, to like double the amount. Now, as I said before, this is just playing around, so, you know, there's nothing to say that you couldn't determine these in some other way, that you've got clumps of stuff, but it basically brings down the number of patches you've got, right? But let's see what kind of speed we get now. Again, I don't expect, yeah, right? I think that's a tiny bit slower, but we've got, at this point, we've got a heck of a lot on the screen, and that's still running fine, right? That's still running absolutely fine. Okay. Now, if we zoom in, this should be fairly smooth because we've not got actually that much on the screen. You know, we've only got one thing there on the screen. So we can probably do another couple of settings regarding culling, you know, back face culling and stuff like that, and that would speed it up some more. But if you're on later, pop me a message if you're available, Jameson. But we're going to call it a night there, and if you've enjoyed the stream, you know, do the usual, hit like and subscribe and all that stuff. And I shall see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Bye bye for now.